there, but we're going to welcome boxing great to the show, Marlon Starling. Marlon, welcome to the show. How you doing tonight, sir?
Okay, how you guys doing?
Good, man.
Doing great.
Glad you could make it.
Hey, my pleasure, man.
We tried to have Marlon on at the end of last year, and unfortunately we had some communication problems and a little bit of confusion going on, so he wasn't able to make that show. But you know, hey, what better way to welcome in the new year than having Marlon Starling joining us on January 1st? So thanks for joining us, Marlon.
Hey, my pleasure, man. You guys are fired.
No, Jeff is fired. Jeff doesn't communicate very well sometimes.
No. Hey,
Jeff, how you
Marlon,
doing,
old school. He can't get a text message, and you can't send him a text message. You got to call.
I know. Y'all tied me up with that text, but I'm not used to my old-fashioned dude.
Well, we have to mail you a letter, I guess, right? So,
How is that? Come on, man.
well, we could at least, maybe we could have went to his MySpace page and messaged him there. That would have been what we could have done.
Well, first of all, I want to say Happy New Year to you guys.
Thank you, too. Well, Marlon, let's just catch the folks up. You know, what's going on with you? What are you up to these days? I know you've been really busy since you retired a while ago. You've done different things, so you know, kind of catch the folks up with what you're doing right now.
Well, right now, believe it or not, I'm out of work, but I'm working with fighters in the gym. I enjoy the sport of boxing. You know, my old lady always tell me I'm in love. But you know, boxing is what I love to do, and I love to. I'm a great trainer. I love training these guys that think they know it all, but don't find out that don't know nothing.
Well, you know, before we get into that, Jeff, I want to back up here a second. What are you doing in inviting Marlon Starling on the show after he beat up your brother 2 times? What's up with that?
Listen, guys. No, I fought a tough Floyd Mayweather,
And they talk trash.
and you know, fighting the Mayweathers, you're always going to get a battle. You're going to get a battle.
Yeah. All right. So tell us about the guys now, Marlon. I mean, tell us a little bit about the folks. You know, the guys that you're training now, the new breed. How do they compare to the guys that back when you were doing your thing?
No comparison. No comparison whatsoever. You know, I hate to say it, but I guess it's in the water. It's in the milk. It's in the milk. Because these guys, they don't have what we had back in the early 80s.
You know, as far as so you think the talent level is a lot less?
I think the talent level is not as good as it was. I hear a lot of people talking about the guy that beat Chad Dawson. What was his name?
Andre Ward.
Andre Ward.
Yeah.
You know, they're saying how exceptional he looked. You know, Andre Ward is a good fighter, no question about it. So he'll be a C-level fighter in our era.
What do you think about that, Jeff?
I mean, I think that probably the competition level is probably less. But also, I think that me, myself personally, I never like to judge fighters from different eras because there's no way you could ever put these 2 guys in the ring at the same time, at the same age. So I never really touched that.
Jeff, I feel the same way about that. We always want to compare eras. We can't compare eras.
Right. It's impossible.
Exactly.
What do you guys think as far as a commitment? To me, it seems like I'm a little bit. Well, I'm a whole lot younger than you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a little bit younger than you guys. But when we were all growing up, we didn't have distractions. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't have Twitter. We didn't have texting. We didn't have. Well, we had the video games, but it just didn't seem to consume us. We had to go outside. Do you think the distractions have really played a part in these guys not really focusing and truly top fighters coming about?
I think it had a good. I think it has a good impact young kids being lazy.
Yeah. And do you guys? I mean, do you think the work ethic? I mean, do you think the talent might be there? But you know, when you're working with guys, both you guys train fighters. Do you see that the distractions and maybe the dedication of the heart not being there that maybe guys back in your era had?
Yes, I think it's a lot of distraction today. Not only it's a lot of distraction, it's a lot of money, and people are driven by money. I think we was driven by being the best.
Yeah. Well, in kind of hearing you say that, and you're the one guy that I think you can certainly look at and say money wasn't a thing for you because, just kind of go over the fact you retired really, really young, 32 years old, still one of the best welterweights in the world. Why did you decide to retire that? 31. Sorry, 31.
31.
Why did you retire so young? Still at the top of your game. Why did you retire so young? And also, how were you able to not ever come back? I mean, so many guys have retired and come back and retired and come back. So go over that a little bit with us.
Well, the reason why, for one thing, I didn't look at the age. I looked at how the body felt. And not only how the body felt. Too many of my friends were champions.
So you didn't want to have to fight them?
Well, I got to a point where, what more do you want? You want to be the best. You want to be the best. When Marlon Starling retired, he was the best welterweight in the world.
Yeah. Hey, and Jeff, he's always kind of claimed that the reason he retired is because you were ducking him. Any truth to that?
Well, I think me and Jeff boxed a few times in the gym. He was a Mayweather. if anything, those Mayweathers have, they have that will to win. And I know when I fought Floyd twice, I didn't beat him up. I beat him off me.
Anything you say to that, Jeff?
I never seen the fights. I just know about the fights. I know the press conferences I've seen and things like that, and and I know there was a lot of trash talking. So, but that's all I know. I mean, I never actually seen the fight.
Well, with me and your brother.
Yeah.
Well, when I fought your brother, Jeff, he talked so much crap. I mean, he fought so much crap. Like I said, I didn't beat him up. I beat him off me.
Well, one thing I had seen in an interview, you were discussing Floyd Jr. and his level, or where he's at now, and how he'd have compared, in your day had he fought. What do you think of him as a fighter? And do you? I guess you had said you don't think he'd be undefeated if he'd fought back in your time. But how do you think he'd have stacked up against the better fighters back then?
Well, I think with Floyd Jr. Floyd Jr. he's not what you call real fast, but he's very sharp. I think with Floyd Jr., I think you have to give him a lot of feints, and you have to keep him in the middle of the ring. He's a good fighter, no question about it. But, in my era, he's beatable. No question about it, he's a good fighter. But in my era, he's beatable. Don't forget, now, we went 15.
What do you have to say about that, Jeff? How do you think he'd have done? How would he have done against Marlon Starling?
No way of telling. Like I said, I don't compare fighters from different eras. So, of course, me, myself, I feel Floyd would have been a great fighter in any era. Doesn't matter.
Right. Well, the only thing, to me, it seems like now, as compared to back then, in that era, it's like then, even if you were the best fighter, it would be harder, I would think, to be undefeated because, now it's kind of like Floyd and there's everybody else. But you go back then, it seemed like there were so many great fighters at every division that even if you were the best, the chances are you're going to get knocked out by somebody at some point because with so many great fighters on any given night, someone's going to have just maybe a little bit more than you.
And not only that, you know, the way, you know, they have catch weight. We didn't know anything about a catch weight. There's no such thing as a catch weight. I mean, it's
hey.
all these new things. What is a catch weight?
That's when they want to put two guys together and make it easier on them, I guess.
That, you know, that's called money weight.
Right.
But
Marlon, that's money weight.
But Marlon, you know who created the catch weight?
Who's that?
Sugar Leonard.
Yep.
He was the inventor. He was the inventor of the catch weight.
Exactly, but don't forget now. Ray Leonard and say Benitez or hers. When they started going up, there wasn't a such thing as a 154. It was 40. It was 35, 47, 60. We didn't have that in between.
Well, Jeff,
not only
he created the catch weight at light heavyweight.
We had 15. Don't forget, we had 15 rounds too. One thing about it, when I fought, you know, you was gonna be in there for the long run,
right?
And the idea is being conditioned. And one thing about Floyd Mayweather Jr., to me, he's a very well-conditioned athlete.
So do you think that actually, you know, if the sport was still at 15 rounds a day, that would actually play? I mean, now he's undefeated, so obviously it wouldn't be. It's not too hard now, but it would even be more to his advantage if it was 15 rounds still.
No, I'm not sure. You know, like Jeff said, you know, we can't. We always compare eras. You know, I look up on Facebook and I see Joe Louis fighting Muhammad Ali. Those things will never happen. I hate when people talk about it. Let's be happy with what we have today.
I hear you on that. I definitely agree with that. Hey, let's talk a little bit about your career. But before I have one question for you. I heard you, you know, and I know you're famous for talking in the third person. Were you the first one to do that? Because you know, it's kind of a relatively new thing. So did you usher that in?
You know, sometimes, you know, maybe one of the reasons why I do it is because when Marlon Starling was fighting, it was a point in his career he was the manager. So, you know, in this sport, Marlon Starling never won that title alone. Believe me, I had to have my people with me. So sometimes when I spoke, when I did interviews, or when I went to negotiate contracts, sometimes I had to talk about that third person because these money-hungry promoters, you know, they think every boxer is dumb.
Yeah, that's one thing that's sad. You know, is that you know, the way they try to take advantage of a lot of these guys, and a lot of the boxers that let them, you know, and guys that can stand up and take care of themselves and make sure that they're getting the right end of the deal. You know, your hats off to them, and you know, it's better for them. There's too many stories of guys that had great careers and ended up being broke and you know, couldn't take care of themselves because they were screwed in some way by the manager. So, you know, it's definitely good to hear about the boxers that were able to handle their own business.
That's one of the reasons why Marlon Starling could never get over the top, because he was too self-independent. He wasn't going to let a promoter or a manager control his well-being. And sometimes I lost some big fights because of that. But, you know, when I got out, I did it my way. I'm happy with my career.
Right.
I mean,
let's talk about that career.
That's true.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Beg your pardon?
No. What I was going to say is basically, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins was that way for the longest. He went against the grain for so long, until finally he got the fight with De La Hoya. And then he was able. Then he finally played the game. He played the game the right way. And then he started seeing, you know, more money he ever seen in his life. You know, and it's kind of like being a rap star until your zone crosses over. And once your zone crosses over, you never want to go back to being a rap star anymore. You want to now be a pop star with rap connotation.
Well, hey, Marlon.
Jeff,
go ahead, Marlon.
Jeff, that's one of the reasons why. That's one of the reasons I got out of boxing. I was fed up with. I was already fought for 30 years in the ring. I was fed up with the Don Kings and the Bob Arams and the Cedric Cushons. They were just, you know, they were meat movers, and they were just trying to rob me everywhere they could.
Mm. Well, I mean, you had said you had no regrets and you got out at the right time, but as a part of you, kind of wish that you got out and you got a regular job like the rest of us. You worked in restaurants, you did the limo thing. There's a part of you kind of regret that you weren't able to get in there and capitalize on the mega bucks that these multi-million-dollar fights that could have set you up for life.
You know what? I wish it every day. I wake up. I wish I would have. But you know what? If your heart is not in there, why get in there and let somebody beat you up?
Well, let's talk a little bit about your career. First of all, I'd like to know, you worked with Freddie Roach. He's kind of an interesting guy. Me and Jeff talked about him a lot. A couple of years ago, he was the greatest trainer ever. Now he's total dirt. And I'm not saying that realistically. I'm just saying, the way that people talk. When your fighter's on the top. When Manny's doing his thing, he was the best ever. Now that he's had a poor run here, people are really trashing on him. What were your thoughts of Freddie as a trainer and what he did with you?
Well, with Freddie Roach and Eddie Fush, when they got Marlon Starling, they got a ready-made champion. They didn't have to teach Marlon Starling anything. Marlon Starling was Marlon Starling's trainer. Freddie Roach was my commissioner, and he was one that looked over things. But, when it comes down to the training, Marlon Starling was really Marlon Starling's trainer. And those guys would tell you themselves. Eddie Fuch, God rest his soul, he knew that Marlon Starling, because I've heard an interview where he said, I got a old-fashioned ready-made fighter. And same thing with Freddie Roach. He know when he didn't have to do nothing but make sure that I was doing the right thing.
Right. Now, Jeff, we talked about that quite a bit as far as trainers, and guys like Freddie Roach are other ones that kind of get guys right at the top of the game, and that kind of, people maybe give them more credit than they deserve just because they happen to have a hot fighter at the time. So as a trainer, I guess it's kind of strange asking you this, but, how important is really a trainer? I mean, if you have someone like Marlon Starling in his prime, Manny Pacquiao when Freddie got him, how much of a part do you guys really play in their success, and do you deserve?
Well, don't get me wrong. The thing is this, is that the most important thing, when you got a fighter that's already established, you got to find out the one thing. There's always things that a fighter can learn or he can do better.
Exactly.
And those are the things that you got to look at, and you got to find those are the perks that you got to find to work on. If a guy lacks in defense, you got to help him with his defense. If a guy lacks in offense, you got to help him in that. But the thing is this, is that when you get a fighter that's already made, that's already been champion, of course, your job is not that hard. You mess it up if you try to do too much. So basically what you need to do is just keep that fighter focused and, keep it with the skills that he has. Don't tamper with it. Because once you start messing with something that's already a proven commodity,
correct.
You're doing a disservice to that fighter. So, my thing is, my thing as a trainer is, go ahead.
Jeff, because you've been around some of my training camps when I was in Vegas back in the day. You know that the boss, the real boss in that training thing was Marlon Starling. Freddie Roach and Eddie Fuch, they did a great job with me. But you know what? They didn't have to do that, but pick out little things that sometimes you slack, or you could, I had a fight. I had a fight on HBO.
It's a matter of reminding.
Exactly.
Sometimes. And
I had a fight on HBO was my last fight under contract with my promoters, the last fight under contract with my managers, and I got hit after the bell. The only thing I can say happened in that fight was I got too comfortable.
No, that's the Marlon fight, right?
That's the Marlon fight.
Yeah, that's a famous fight.
Yeah, I never got my title back.
Hey,
yeah, let's talk about it 1 second. I just want to finish up one thing on the training thing, then I do want to talk about that fight and a couple other ones. But real quick, Jeff, we had mentioned, I don't want to throw any trainers under the bus or any people, but we've talked at length about one person. But finishing up on the trainer thing, is that the biggest mistake you think trainers make when they get with the new fighters, not adapting their style? Like I said, I know the one person in particular you think has really not progressed because the trainer was trying to change his style. So do you think that's a huge mistake when you get someone like a Celestino Caballero or someone that's already a great fighter trying to change him to suit you? Is that a huge problem?
I mean, I think it is when, as a trainer, I look for what I feel that fighter needs. I mean, with Celestino was already a proven champion when I had him. But the one thing with Celestino's 6 foot tall, fighting 126 pounds. He don't need to be fighting. He needs to be boxing. And that's the one thing that I changed with him. I mean, he already knew how to move. He knew how to not get hit. He knew how to dance around and all those things. But he still would never use his jab. He always wanted to be in harm's way by wanting to, be combative and fight.
You can't make a boxer try to be a fighter. I mean, you can't make a boxer to try to be a fighter. You can't do that. What I did was, if you want to fight, I'm going to box you. And if you want to box, I'm going to fight you. I did it all.
Right.
Well, let's get to that infamous Tomas Molinares fight. Originally it was you lost the fight. They overturned it. It became a no contest, but he still got to keep the belt. All these years later, do you regret how it was handled? Did it piss you off, or what are your thoughts on that fight?
I want my belt. I want my WBC welterweight championship belt.
So how does that? I mean, Jeff, let me ask you: how should that normally if something overturned later on, should they have? Did they make the right decision, letting him keep the belt, or should they give him the belt back, or how is that normally handled, or should it have been handled?
I mean, I should have got the belt back, but what? I should have got the belt back, but you know what? Today, it's not the belt that brings the money; it's the title that brings the money.
Right. Well, you actually. Let's talk about a couple of these other fights. Really, you had 2 fights with Breland. Just your thoughts on those. Great fights. You won one. You had a draw there. Thoughts on Breland as a fighter? It seemed like he was when he was an amateur, he was the greatest ever, and he had a really nice pro career, but just didn't quite seem to live up to what people thought his capabilities were.
Well, one of the reasons, they brung him up a little bit too fast because he shouldn't have fought Marlon Starling at that time. He wasn't strong enough for Marlon Starling. When I fought him the first time, I fought him from the heart, and I dogged him, right? But the second fight, I fought him from the head like you're supposed to, and I had no problems. I mean, that first fight with Breland was the worst fight I ever fought in my career, and I won the title.
And Jeff, what were your thoughts on Breland? I believe, didn't you at one time say that you thought he was the greatest amateur ever, or what were your thoughts on him and as far as his pro career? And did you see the fight he had with Starling?
Yeah, I tell you one thing. Wrong. I mean, he.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you one thing about Mark Breland. I boxed from Tommy Hearns to I boxed a lot of good professionals out there. Mark Breland jab hurt like most guys' right hand.
Really?
And people always say,
Breland's
going to be people said Breland's going to be an easy fight. Breland was one hell of a fighter, but we really couldn't see it because he wasn't seasoned enough to fight Marlon Starling at that time.
And Jeff, what were your thoughts on Breland?
I mean, I thought Breland was he was a great amateur, but
And that's it.
I think that the amateur style didn't transcend over to the professional style. And don't get me wrong, I mean, if he wasn't touted as highly as he was as an amateur, what he achieved wouldn't be a big deal, because I mean, he still became two-time world champion, which is great, and for anyone to be one-time world champion is great. But because of his status as an amateur was so prominent, and and it was so big that, I mean, expectations of Marlon Starling, of Mark Breeden was beyond real. And so because of that in itself, he never lived up to the billing of what everybody thought he was going to be. And it's sad. It wasn't really his fault. It was the media's fault.
Well, Jeff, one thing about Marlon Starling, right? I didn't want to be the WBC champ or the WBA champ. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to be the best.
Right.
And I can say, February 4th, 1989, people around the world, even my peers, they say, you know what, that Marlon Starling is the best welterweight on the planet. That's when my career was over.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that victory against Lloyd Honeyghan. You pretty much consider that the high point of your career then?
Well, the only reason why I say that is because I beat everybody from all around the world, from London to New York to Tokyo. I beat them, and when I fought Honeyghan, which Honeyghan was doing all that talking, I treated him like a baby. I had him eating in my hands.
Right. And Jeff, you saw that fight, right?
Yeah, I saw that fight. That was a great fight, and that was one of the fights where I became really a huge Marlon Starling fan. And actually my mindset, when I started training, I don't know. I mean, I've seen Marlon train, but I'm talking about just the mentality of that fight, stuck in my head. When I would be running, I would be thinking that this is what Marlon Starling was doing, to get ready for this fight, mentally, myself,
And Jeff, when you come down to it, Jeff, what you're saying there is you're saying 95% of this sport is conditioning. You got to be ready.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, see, and that's what I told you there, Marlon. I told you, he said that you retired, you're ducking. See, he had you on his mind. He was ready to whoop up on you, and then you went and retired on him.
I was kind of running in Vegas, really.
Well, hey, after the Honeyghan fight, you fought at Hartford a few times, but it had been pretty cool. You fought the South Korean guy, Chung. What was that like getting, your backyard there in Hartford, getting to have a world title fight there?
But you guys didn't mention the Michael Nunn fight.
Well, that was after that fight.
No, Michael Nunn fight was in between Honeyghan and
no, sir.
Michael Nunn, and then I went back down to fight Honeyghan.
No, you fought Chung in September of '89, and you fought Nunn in April of 1990.
Okay, so I had to go. I had to go down. I had to go down to fight, but then I had to fight. I had to go down to fight Blocker.
Yeah, Blocker was your last fight.
Right.
Right. So yeah, I was kind of going in order there. You had the Honeyghan, and then the very next fight after that was your fight with Chung in Korea. But we could talk about Nunn. What were your thoughts on that? You had Nunn was 34-0 at the time. What were your thoughts on him?
Well, see, with Michael Nunn, people thought that Michael Nunn was the second coming to God, just like they thought about Donald Curry. But
right.
with Michael Nunn didn't win that fight. I lost that fight.
Yeah. Now, why did you, a couple of these losses that you had, well, not the loss, but the no contest with Molinares, and then with Nunn, did you ever, consider trying to get a rematch with these guys, or why did you never get a second crack at him?
Marlon Starling was too independent. A lot of the promoters, I wanted what they wanted, and that was more money. And
right.
it was tough to get money from the promoters back then.
Right. Yeah, and it seems like, especially in the case of Molinares, even though, the fight was after the bell, you clearly, were winning that fight, so I don't think that was maybe something that they needed to see again. But yeah, just going back to the fight with Chung, so what was it like, like for the Connecticut guy, you fought some earlier fights, non-championship fights there, but what was it like to get to be, basically your hometown there fighting for a world title?
Well, I think, I have to, even today, I have to thank the people of Greater Hartford, because that was the first fight they had, that was the first world championship fight they had probably in 40 years. And
right.
And it was something big for the Greater Hartford people. And then
right.
I think, I would rather look good, beat the guy good, and get out clean, rather than go to try to stop somebody and get caught with a bad shot.
Right. Well, yeah, and then the other Connecticut guy, or somebody you'd worked with there recently was Chad Dawson. You actually had sparred with him, and what are your thoughts on Chad? And do you think he can come back?
I think when you wait, you rust. And I think right now maybe Chad's career is over. But Chad had too much ability where he should leave the boxing game alone, because Chad could be a good fighter. I mean, it wasn't like this guy beat him bad. I think Chad's heart was in that fight as much as he wanted it. Chad needed a strong trainer.
Right. So now you spar with him, correctly? And if you did, how did that go?
With me, I'm gonna always hold my own. I don't care who I'm fighting with. I got ready. I was in Vegas for Tommy Hearns getting ready for Leonard, the first fight. Listen, anywhere I go, I'm going to hold my own. That's just me.
Well, let me ask you both this. I'm not comparing you guys in your prime to fighters now, but I want to ask you both this. If you put your mind to it and you decided you were coming back and you were going to put all your mind into training, where would Marlon Starling be as a fighter right now? How would you rank with the current guys?
Oh, definitely. You know what? You think Pacquiao and Mayweather would be a good fight? Me and Floyd will have a good fight.
So you think you can still hang in there with them?
Oh, you know what I need? I need John Coffey. You know who John Coffey is?
You know who he is, Jeff?
Jeff, do you know who John Coffey is?
I know Jerome Coffey.
No, John Coffey. Do you know who John Coffey is? The guy who played in the Green Mile. You know the guy who played in the Green Mile? Now, if that guy could come and suck all the air back into me, I'll fight him. I mean, if he can clean my body out to where my body is 30 years old, I'll come back.
So, Jeff, what about you? Where's 87-year-old Jeff Mayweather stack up if he came back?
Hey, Jeff, we're doing the right thing. We train the fighters.
I could be a couple guys, but that's about it.
Hey, you know what? Give me a round or two.
Yeah, that's
Give me a round or two. A round or two, and I'm done.
Well, Jeff, I saw you with Irish Brian Reynolds there doing your thing, so, I think you could take him at least right now, right?
Yeah, well, he's 15, so I think I can take him right now.
Probably take him too, I'm sure. Hey, Marlon, this last question, was there ever a point that, having retired at 31, you said you walked away, you had no regrets, but was there ever a point where you said that, maybe I'm going to go try to fight again?
I did, but every time I thought about it, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that. I didn't want to train. I didn't want to do it like that anymore. I mean, it was just when I was boxing, I loved the gym. I just didn't want to do it. And when you don't want to do it, I'm not getting in that ring and making myself look bad. And the only way I'm going to make myself look bad is not being in shape.
Right. Well, it's great that you were able to see that and know that, you didn't have what it takes. I guess that's the hardest thing is that the fighters or football players, you always hear them saying, they love the game itself, but the preparation is what made them retire because they realized that they just didn't have the desire or the want to get in there and put in all the hard work to get into the ring. So Jeff, it's great that he was able to realize that, but is that something that's real common for aging fighters or, well, I would say aging because Marlon wasn't that old when he retired, but for guys, can you kind of see it in them and kind of...
You say that I wasn't old. Remember now, at that time, I did most of my life. I started when I was 8 years old.
Right. Yeah, so you might have been young chronologically, but you definitely put the miles in.
I put the miles in.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fighter that sweat. You never see Marlon in a boxing match where he's gasping for air in the 10th round. I was ready to go.
Right. Well, Jeff, as a trainer, what's the first thing that you see go normally? Is it the skills, or is it the desire to put in the work that's necessary to be a champion or an elite fighter?
Well, I mean, sometimes it's a combination of both. I mean, but basically, I think sometimes when a guy gets to a certain level, sometimes he thinks that he's there, and he forget how he got there. He forgot that he was hungry. Sometimes that can be the downfall. And, and then sometimes, like I said, sometimes a guy gets full of himself and they just don't work hard anymore.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
you're right, Jeff.
It could be a combination of both things, that can bring a fighter down. And also, when you become an older fighter, you got to work harder than a younger fighter, because, I mean, the shortcomings that you have as an older fighter, the things that when you were young you were able to get away with. I mean, a young fighter, what you're going to be facing is sometimes you'll be facing, like, for instance, say, Marlon Starling may be facing Marlon Starling, but his name may be Robert Charles, but it's the same thing as when he was young. He's facing himself in that ring, and sometimes that's your biggest opponent when you face someone that is able to do the things that you were able to do, but now he's doing them to you.
Jeff, that is so embarrassing, ain't that? When you can see it, and you can see it, but can't do it. I mean, there's a lot of times, I go in the gym, and I can see me beating these guys good, but when I'm ready to do something, they don't.
Well, the one thing I think that's really commendable about both of you guys is that, you both had good careers, and both of you, unlike a lot of these guys that hang in there for way too long, you both left, relatively at the top of your game. You both knew, because, Jeff, Marlon Jeff was kind of said the same thing as you. He knew that his heart just wasn't in anymore. Well, I guess yours was a little different. You said you felt older, but, Jeff just knew his heart wasn't really in fighting anymore, and he didn't want to, continue with the sport, knowing that, if he couldn't give it all, that he didn't want to go in there and get knocked around anymore. Right, Jeff? And
that's the truth. That was my thing. Every time I go in the gym and I want to do it, after a while you said, I come out of the gym and I said, I hurt for 2 or 3 days.
Right. That's true.
That's not fun.
Not at all.
And this is something I love to do. But when you're hurting, I know, you know, I enjoy boxing. I love the sport of boxing.
Well, yeah, it sounds like you do, Marlon. It was, you know, it's been great having you on tonight. And it's great hearing stories from you, you know, and it's good to know you're still involved in sport, training people, and you know, I definitely think the sport could use some more people like you because you're quite an entertaining character. You know, is there anything else you want to wrap up as far as, you know, telling the folks anything you have to add? And also, you know, tell them where they can keep up with the, I know you have a Facebook, where they can snail mail you. Don't text you, we know that, but, you know, do you do Twitter or anything like that?
Well, listen. I'm a trainer I'm a good trainer looking for some good work. I'm not a babysitter. I'm not a babysitter. I'm a good trainer that's looking for work.
There you go. All right, and then where can they catch you on Facebook? I guess look up Marlon Starling and.
Oh well, you can reach me on my email. My email is magiciknow@yahoo.com, or either on my Facebook page.
And then you got, I'm sure you do Twitter and Instagram, huh? Probably not, right?
No, I don't do Twitter. I don't do none of that other stuff.
Jeff, question.
You're taking his man to the future.
Hey, Jeff, I'm old-fashioned. Come on, let me be old, okay?
I know. And last, I have a question actually for you, Jeff. What do you think of Marlon? You know, he says all this big game, but he stole his name from Antonio Tarver. What do you think about that?
Oh, no, wait 1 minute.
Let me get that in.
Please, don't laugh. There is only one magic. Listen, it's a magic man in basketball that was Magic Johnson. We came in the league at the same time. Okay? There was only one magic man in boxing, and you're talking to he.
Hey, I got one thing. One thing to ask Marlon. I bet you don't remember this.
Okay.
I asked you this about when the fight with Marlon Starling, because one time I remember they used to document it, so they should show it so much when you would say, "I was not knocked out. I was not knocked out."
No, Jeff, I got another one. Do I look back out? Hey, Jeff, let me tell you something, Jeff. The last thing I remember is when the bell rang, right? The next thing I remember was leaving the hotel room, getting on the plane.
Yes. No,
and I was up there talking to the guy.
That's what I asked. No, you know what's funny? That's exactly what I was going to bring up, because I remember asking you that. I said, do you remember what happened? You said, no. You said, I was at home. The only thing I remember is I was at home watching TV and said, what the hell am I doing here? You told me that a long time ago. I was like, wow.
Jeff, I had somebody else that question. You know what, Jeff? That is. They told me I spent 5 hours in the hospital. Jeff, that's 5 hours in my life that I'll never get back. And people ask you what you missed. Those 5 hours, because when that bell rung, the next thing I remember was leaving my hotel room, getting ready to go home.
So what was that like going back to the first time you saw that fight and you saw that you were knocked out? What was that like seeing that?
One thing I didn't know. If you looked at the fight, one thing I didn't know, you don't get in the ring on a stretcher. So I'm not getting off. I'm not getting out of this ring. They tried to take me out on the stretcher.
Yeah.
I said, I'm walking out of here.
It's easy for me to say as a guy's never, taken hits in the ring there, but, it's kind of strange because, it didn't look like a devastating punch necessarily, especially for someone like you that had such a, reputation for having such a granite chin, never been knocked out or anything like that before. So it was just, just one of those things. I got to call you in the right spot, but it had been kind of weird, seeing the interview. You have Larry Burchin, and that was kind of strange, and getting to go back and see all that, for the first time.
Listen, it only takes one good shot to put you out.
Yeah.
Turn off the lights.
Turn off the lights. Right. You're right.
All right, Jeff, do you have anything else for...
Hey, Jeff, like Teddy says, turn them off. Turn them off. I mean, listen, if that wouldn't have ever happened, right, I went through a whole career in a tough era, never being off my floor, never being off my foot. That's
wow. And you
really
can
good.
And you can say never within the actual time of a round, because it was after the bell, so never actually during a fight. You know.
That's right.
That's true. That's official.
Well, Jeff,
Jeff, do me one favor, Jeff. Jeff, as Floyd, will he sign a contract to fight me? I'll fight Floyd. I'll fight him next week if he wants to.
Hey, you know, that might be
as long as I get, hey, that's all I want is I just want 1% of the game.
Hey, Marlon, you know, we before you came on at the beginning of the show, Jeff said he talked to Floyd just before the show, and Floyd would reveal who he's fighting. So, you know, it might be you. Maybe that's going to be the big surprise announcement.
Could be. Listen, Floyd is too sharp for me right now. but you know what? We have a good round or two, I'll tell you that.
How much time you need?
Well, maybe you could be his October fight. You give you a little more time to get ready.
Hey, but I'm getting out up to the second or third round, I'll tell you that.
All right, Jeff, before we let the original and the only Magic Man go here, anything else you got to add that you haven't been able to talk about?
Hey, you know, I just want to thank you guys and thank the listeners. You know, I had a great career, and I thank you guys for having me on.
I appreciate it. Jeff, anything you want to add?
Yeah, it's our pleasure, man. I'm glad you were able to make it back this time. And like I said, it was a pleasure talking to you. You had a great
Jeff,
career.
I just got to ask you one thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Do I look knocked out?
I was not knocked out. I was not even knocked out.
Don't say that no more.
You wasn't? You better watch the TV
a lot of times.
You were still ready to go another round, I believe, weren't you?
I was ready. See, we can laugh about it now. Hey, you know that
Hey, what is it? You was in the locker room.
$1 million.
You was in the locker room. I was knocked out. What are you talking about?
Hey, Jeff, I thought you was my friend. Jeff, I thought you was my friend. Come on, Jeff.
What do you say? Hey, Marlon, you already know. That part is going to be in your part of your career forever. Because you know what? You and the other part, what's his name is Mustafa Muhammad. Remember when he said what he said about when he said to who did he say? Said it to Rich Lewis. Said this scale was the perfect. No, what's his name? He said it to him. Said nobody came here to see you fight anyway. Remember he was supposed to fight Michael Spinks.
Yeah, I remember that. You remember that?
He came in overweight.
God, Jeff, you don't remember nothing. You don't forget nothing, huh?
No, because they had that. No, because they had that. They were talking about the things in boxing that happened, and you and him were a part of it. That's why I remember it so clearly, because you two were a part of it. Because he was like, Mustafa said, no, Bush Lewis said, this scale right here was perfect. No scale has ever been calibrated more perfect than this scale. And then Mustafa said, nobody came here to see you fight. You shut up with all that stuff.
I know. That's it. You remember those? Hey, Jeff, you know, back in our era, we had a good time. One thing about it, I had a good time with the sport of boxing, and I respect what they're doing now. We just need better fighters.
Yep.
Jeff, a man of many words there.
Yes, sir.
Did I lose it there? All right, well, we're about out of time here. So, Marlon, appreciate it. It was great having you on. We'd love to have you back on any time. It's great catching up with you and hearing that you're doing pretty well. So hopefully the training thing really takes off for you. I'm sure some young fighters could do worse and get some guidance from you. So I really appreciate having you on tonight.
Hey, man, I thank you guys. Hey, Jeff, we'll see you time.
All right. Appreciate it, man.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, you guys. Hey,
Marlon,
once again, you have a happy.
This is my customary sign off. You ready?
All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Oh, hey, Marlon, real quick, if you missed the show, you wanted to catch it, Marlon, just go ahead and text Jeff's page, and we'll have the link up there for you.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
All right. All right. Take care. Thanks, Marlon.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. That was Marlon Starling.